football here, boys. Let's keep reckless speculation
we
Thursday.
We're going to break down college baseball.
Alive and well. No, we are not.
Oh, I thought we were going to pivot to the college game.
We are not. I've seen a lot of features on the Go for Baseball program this week. Listen, I love me some Go for Baseball, but
John,
when there are speculative stories floating around about the Minnesota Vikings quarterback situation, I don't know how you can resist. So,
reckless speculation.
What is the latest on Kirk Cousins? I think that's the question we can dive into here. And there's a great article on ESPN.com today involving Courtney Cronin, Vikings reporter, friend of the show, Dan Graziano, and Jeremy Fowler, all insiders, and they're doing sort of a back and forth roundtable about the offseason quarterback trade market. So they've got each quarterback sort of listed, then they have a conversation, and in the Kirk Cousins section, I'm just going to read you some excerpts here, and you guys chime in as you
go right ahead.
Wish,
Yeah,
right?
I love it.
So the Vikings finally have their new leadership structure in place, and now they have to solve the biggest piece of the offseason equation. Trade Kirk Cousins, let him play out the final year of his contract, which comes with a $45 million cap hit, taking up 23% of your salary cap, or extend him. The rumblings that the Vikings would consider extending Cousins to lower his cap figure to a more manageable number make sense for several reasons. It's the ultimate posturing move if they're looking to move him, for one. Considering Cousins' $35 million base salary has already been fully guaranteed, the team needs to give off the notion that it places high value on its quarterback and isn't going to give him away unless a trade partner is willing to pay a sizable portion of what Cousins is owed and dole out considerable draft capital in return.
Mm-hmm.
So she's saying, okay, yeah, like there's been some rumblings that they're going to keep Cousins, but whether that's true or whether it's just a facade to build his value, that's going to be the messaging right now.
Yes.
Regardless, right?
Yes. Makes perfect sense.
While Kevin O'Connell might have sold the Vikings on his vision for the offense that includes Cousins, it's fair for a new head coach to want to take command of the position under his terms, even if that means working with Cousins for one season before moving on. From what I'm hearing, Courtney says, I would not be surprised to see Cousins' camp try to force the Vikings' hand by not wanting to go back to the negotiating table just yet. That means he'd play out his expensive contract or force the team to trade him.
Mm-hmm.
But he has said he wants to be a Viking for life. Do you buy that?
No, hell no. I don't buy everything we are hearing publicly from both sides now is not the truth.
You don't like,
no,
because maybe I'm gullible here, but I actually think if the money is a huge thing,
right,
clearly, but like if he were paid an amount of money that he felt good about,
yes,
I think he'd want to be a Viking for the rest of his career.
Sure,
I do think he likes it here,
but he wants to be compensated like he wants to be compensated, and the problem is that is not in the best interest of the team. I think what Kirk is trying to say is, I would like to be a Viking for the rest of my career, and if we win a Super Bowl, cool. But if I get paid, cooler. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So he's not taking his agent could go to the Vikings today and say, let's smooth out the 22 cap hit. Let's do a long-term, let's do a 5-year contract, which he has not done.
Which would take him to almost age 40, by the way.
Exactly right.
Non-starter for me.
It is.
But Tom Brady,
but
the
what
only guy ever and the GOAT. Yeah.
But those last 2 years could then defer some of the cap hit, right? So now Brzezinski can play around with Kirk's contract. Life becomes much simpler for the Vikings.
Yeah. But then that's what the Falcons are dealing with right now. They did that with Matt Ryan, and now they're literally sitting in hell as a franchise.
But Kirk wants his money, and he wants his short-term contracts, and Kirk would love to play the rest of his career. Kirk would like to spend the rest of his natural life as a Viking at the right price. That's what I hear. And that has been his mode of operation since the day he got here.
Yeah. Dan Graziano adds, that's the thing about Cousins. His contract gives him so much control. He has no reason to do any kind of extension that doesn't come with the same kind of team-crippling salary guarantees his last 2 deals did. If they decide they have to extend him, he and his agent can insist on the exact structure. that he wants and continue to crush the NFL income game in ways more players should be trying to copy.
Yes.
If the Vikings decide they want to trade him, the $35 million fully guaranteed salary will probably mean the acquiring team has to do an extension before agreeing to a trade, which gives him a ton of leverage as well because he doesn't have a no-move clause, but he can essentially say, well, I'm not going to sign an extension with that team. I'll play out the $35 million. And the opposing team would say, well, then why would we,
Well, then no.
Or they can say, cool, yeah, we'll take you on as a one-year mercenaary, but Vikings, we're not going to give you a first-round pick for that. Maybe we'll give you a fourth, to which I would say, okay.
Or we will. So here's clause B to what you just said, Phil. It's this: the Vikings tell the team, Browns. They say, okay, Kirk won't do a contract extension, but our expectation for 22 is we're not going to be a great team. We will pick up a portion of the tab and pay him. And so you get him as a mercenary, but more importantly, you don't take on the entire cap hit. That's possible too.
Sure.
Now that takes the Vikings to bite the bullet a bit, but if the Vikings are smart about 22, they could say, you know what, that's fine because what we really want is a first round pick back. And at the current cap hit, if we send that entire cap hit to Cleveland, we ain't going to get a first round pick back from the Browns.
But taking Baker back would probably be worth a first or a second round pick.
That's the Goff. Right? That's the Goff thing, right?
Yeah.
Like give us a first round pick and we'll take your potentially garbage quarterback back.
Jeremy Fowler adds,
reckless speculation.
Teams are only as good as their options, and the Vikings don't have a clear-cut alternative to Cousins. Third-round pick Kellen Mond is developmental. Many quarterbacks in this year's draft are in a similar stage. Free agents aren't upgrades. That's largely why the Vikings and Cousins continue the marriage. It's kind of amazing. It's like, all right, we all kind of agree that even like the Cousins Crusaders agree that like, yeah, there's like 8 or 9 better quarterbacks out there. Yeah. Okay. Then why
are we debating this?
Yeah. But O'Connell really sold his vision for Cousins in the interview process. The sense is the coaching candidates who interviewed with Minnesota like Cousins more than the GM candidates who must worry more about the big picture implications. Something has to give. And I totally buy that. I mean, O'Connell, listen, they just won a Super Bowl. I think Matthew Stafford's a totally different, especially watching him play this year for the Rams organization. I mean, you give him the weapons and the tools. Where people get it wrong is, well, why don't you give Cousins the weapons and the tools? The Vikings aren't the Lions, for one. I don't think anyone, does any Vikings fan out there think the Vikings are the Lions organizationally? No. I mean, we've all been clowning on the Lions our whole lives. Right. The Lions are an incompetent disaster. The Vikings, when Cousins arrived, had the best defense in the NFL. Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook. The Vikings have had some pretty darn good infrastructure here. So I guess what I'm saying here is I understand why Kevin O'Connell would look at Cousins and say, yeah, we worked together before. He's an accurate quarterback. There's definitely another level to his game that I can unlock. But if you zoom out to the organizational knot that they have to untangle here, I would trust that O'Connell can make it work with Kirk and almost any other. He could make it work for 1 year with Teddy or Mariota until you find the young quarterback that you're drafting either this year or next year for the 5 or 10 year long haul. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't confine Kevin O'Connell's ability to take a quarterback to the next level to just Kirk Cousins and the $45 million cap hit. Okay, let's broaden this out.
I like the leaks too. I think the leaks are smart because you're not going to leak out. Okay, here's the deal. KOC and Kwesi hate the guy. They both want to trade him. They will give him if you got a 7th round pick, they'll take it. So I like.
And then you get a Kyler Murray situation where now it's like
the messaging is very good here. I like this. I am until I am proven wrong. I am banking on Kwesi and Kevin being smart, sharp dudes. And that does not mean talking down to people. That does not mean, the condescending tone of Spielman. That does not mean lying to practice lying. but it does mean crafting your message correctly. And I
Yeah.
like that. And I like this one because there would be no incentive to say, Kevin O'Connell, he worked with Kirk. You know what? He thinks Kirk sucks. You're not going to say that. So I like how we're going thus far early in the process. I like the direction. No matter what they do, I think it's very smart to say, you know what, Kwesi's got some questions here, right? Kevin can work with. So yes, this is the messaging to me in what should be a quarterback carousel that starts to spin on March 16th. I think they're doing a good job of trying to set the table, not for a trade for sure, but I think the most important thing right now is to set the table for the possibilities, right?
Yes. This is, again, no matter what they think of Cousins, the messaging, whether you're going to keep him or trade him, has to be what it's been so far, which
Correct.
is, oh, yeah, I mean, we love the guy, right? So they're playing it well right now. I want to add one more note about the Vikings cap situation because I think this isn't something like if you're a casual fan, you're not spending time on like overthecap.com. Like you don't have time to do that. You're busy. You got kids. You got a job and stuff. That's where we come in. We try to explain some of this stuff because, we got all day to just stare at overthecap.com. We are here for you.
Yeah, I got no.
So the Vikings are one of a handful of teams that are over the salary cap right now. Mm-hmm. You have to be cap compliant, right, Judd, by the league year in a month.
I believe it's 3 p.m. March 16th.
So you have, and today is February 17th. So you have less than 4 weeks to become cap compliant, which means bare minimum, you have to get under the salary cap.
Yeah.
And then there's the discussion about, okay, now you have to clear like 5 to 8 million or whatever it is to sign draft picks. And then if you want to actually do something in free agency. And where people get a little bit lost in this is, the cap is fake. The Vikings can just go restructure 5 players and come up with $30 million in cap space, which is true. They can do that. They can go tap into Harrison Smith, Adam Thielen. In fact, they can do a lot of this without even talking to those players or agents. There's something in the NFL contract world called a simple restructure, which allows you to convert certain portions. There are signing bonuses. There are roster bonuses.
Yes.
There's base salaries.
Hunter's contract.
You can convert certain
converted.
Parts of contracts.
Correct.
To, signing bonus and then spread the signing bonus out throughout the duration of the contract, and you can find money that way. You don't have to get all in the weeds on this. But what I do want to say is if overthecap.com has a great tool, if every team in the NFL, so the Vikings right now had like the 4th worst cap situation, but they can just like restructure some guys, right? Yeah, and they can. But so can every other team. So if every team in the NFL did simple restructures of a handful of players and said, oh, let's find some more money here, the Vikings would still be a bottom 5 cap situation team. The Vikings can pretty easily free up. They can pretty easily get to $30 million under the cap with some simple restructures.
Sure.
Hanging on to Cousins, hanging on to Danielle Hunter, etc. Mm-hmm. So they can get $30 million under the cap. But while they sit $30 million under the cap, the Dolphins sit $91 million under the cap. The Chargers and the Colts sit $90 million under the cap. The Broncos and the Bengals sit $75 million under the cap. So these other teams that are going to be vying for the same free agents that are also playoff caliber teams, maybe even in nicer climates like Miami, right, have a ton more money to spend and throw at players to make their teams better than you do.
Right.
And when people ask, well, why do you guys keep advocating for them to not push forward in 2022? Because at some point, this has to stop. You have to just take a breather. It doesn't mean you have to be garbage, but it means you got to clear some space, say goodbye to a couple veterans,
right,
get some draft picks if you can, and load up for a big push in like 2023.
And it has to stop with the same players. Like this is a disaster at some point. Because if you continue to push cap and be like, okay, Harrison Smith, let's redo you again. Let's redo Kendricks. Okay. At some point in time, you are paying those players for what they did, not what they're going to do. And this is the biggest thing to me about football. You cannot afford, and Belichick is a genius here, you cannot afford to reward players for services rendered. It's got to be what's your potential. So I don't care if Harrison Smith, Ring of Honor guy. He is a potential Hall of Famer, but at some point soon, he's going to be done. And
He's
you
30, he's
can't-
32. Yeah.
And you can't be like, let's bring him back. Let's bring him back, because that is how you put yourself in a terrible situation, both from a cap standpoint and personnel. Like, that's the thing.
And you miss out on a window that
Yes.
might land you a second round pick for him, but that window might not exist next year.
And that's why, to me, one of the most important discoveries that you're going to make in 2022 is the 2021 draft class, which basically didn't get used. Which essentially, I mean, those guys. Who knows? You might have 3 or 4 guys who can be core contributors for years, right? We have no idea. You have to find out. Wyatt Davis is going to have to play at some point. He might be good for all we know.
Yeah, he might. That's the thing. It's
might be the
possible
right
Wyatt
guard.
Davis is the starting right guard. Mike Zimmer just had him in the doghouse, right?
Exactly.
We don't know. So there it is. That's the latest on the Kirk Cousins situation that will play out over the next month, and the latest on the Vikings cap situation that will
March
play
1st,
out over the next
baby.
month.
The combine starts March 1st. I am so excited, because that's where the fur is going to fly.
Yes.
That's where we're talking to agents. That's where I'm sure there will be agent/GM meltdowns. Don't forget, it was at the combine in the midst of the Peterson saga when late at night, Brzezinski and Peterson's agent, I think it was Ben Dogra, got into a screaming match that many heard. That's why I love the combine. You talk about football being tough. Forget the game, the off the field stuff. Playmakers, baby.
The St. Thomas men's hockey team continues its battle through the rugged CCHA. Their last 2 home games are this weekend, Friday and Saturday, against Lake Superior State. And you can find tickets at TommySports.com. TommySports.com. Every week we also go through embarrassing, cryptic, old tweets.
No.
And old takes here. It's old tweets exposed. Declan has brought to the table.
All right. We did this last time. I remember we combed through, or I combed through our Viking season predictions. So we have a couple more to bring to the table from that episode.
Oh, boy.
So we'll start with Mackey. Then we'll go to me, because I have another one. And Judd, you have something else, I believe, that's on the Vikings. Not from that episode.
It's okay if you ignore me.
I'm confident that whatever I said was most likely spot on. I don't know.
100%.
Declarative statement number 1 from me, on the record here. The Vikings will start fairly hot, and I will quantify that by saying they will be at least 4-2 before the bye. I think people are overreacting to a bad preseason. We haven't seen the starters collectively, Jefferson, Thielen, Dalvin. Like, at some point, I think Christian Darrisaw is going to come back probably after the 4-2 or better start. So at least 4-2 before the bye. Hey, they went 3-3. They were 3-3. That's not. I know they started 0-2.
So I
But they
wouldn't say that's,
were 3-3
they
at
were
the bye.
3-3 at the bye, but they
Not
but
bad.
0-2
By the way,
at the gate.
make a kick for God's sakes in Arizona.
Never.
And I would've
Here
been
come the
right.
excuses. Here we go. Here we
Yeah,
go.
all you guys want to
I'm
blame
just-
Kirk all the time.
Yeah,
Why don't you blame Greg Joseph's leg?
Small Jim's here.
Oh,
to
okay,
save the
gotcha.
day.
He shrinks in big moments.
0-2. 0-2 to start the year.
Wow.
That's okay.
It's not my fault. They should have been 4-2. You know,
Yeah.
they failed, not me.
Dalvin Cook not holding on to the
They
football.
didn't live up to my expectations.
Yeah.
That's their fault.
Old takes exposed the 2021 Vikings, okay? All right, here's what I had to say.
I did tease the 9-8 and the wild card weekend, but I will make this very declarative and take it one step further. So, write this down, if you will. The Vikings will be the 7th seed in the NFC playoffs, and they will beat the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau on wild card weekend. I'm making that declarative. I'm putting it on the record. I'm being extremely specific.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
The Vikings,
But
and
9 wins,
and
too.
off the record, by the way, off the record, I think they lose both matchups in the regular season too. The Vikings do. The Vikings
this would
lose
be like
both regular season
2004.
matchups.
This happened. They lost
Hard
2
to beat a
games.
team 3 times, guys.
I was so fat.
Judd's biggest takeaway was his weight.
That's my takeaway. I was so fat. Look at this.
Narcissistic Judd here, just staring.
You think I'm not?
So not only were they not the 7th seed, they split with the Packers, and they never came close to really.
And they never
Yeah,
came close to
Packers
playing him in the playoffs.
in the playoffs. So
That was
All right.
yeah.
there.
I'm glad you're doing this, Dex. It's good to
right.
purge our poor predictions.
one more from Jolly Judd here.
I'll rip the Band-Aid off immediately. Kirk Cousins
is in the MVP race right now. It's only 3 games in. I understand that. I understand that the Vikings are 1-2, which definitely means if we had an MVP 3 games in, he's not the favorite. But look at what he's doing. Look at the statistics. Look at what he did yesterday in once taking a team that was known for its defense, right? And sort of dragged its offense along and hoped that the offense could score 22 points. Look at what Kirk Cousins and company, but Kirk Cousins in particular, let's give him the credit here. He is playing at an MVP level right now, and he's been fantastic. And I think everyone can acknowledge that. No one is trying to put him down. You play like this, you earn your $31 million salary cap hit, and you earn all the accolades that you're going to get, shoe or no shoe on your.
Judd, where'd you go?
He's gone.
Judd,
I'm now
we traded to the Browns?
I'm a can of Surly now. I just turned into a big can of Surly.
Oh, boy.
You gave us a chance at the end, but I got 3 words for you. You like that?
I think we have a winner here this week. I think his name is Judd Zolgad.
Sorry, Judd.
MVP. MVP. The MVP this weekend is the Choice Bank Minnesota Golf Show. Back. That's right, at the Minneapolis Convention Center. We're going to be hanging out, doing a little bonus Mackey and Judd Purple Daily stuff around 1:30 on Friday and Saturday this weekend.
There we go.
Which
Who do we
golfer
got
is
there?
that?
Jordan Spieth.
Oh, Jordan
yeah.
Spieth.
A listener said, if you want one, what's your address? I'll send you Jordan Spieth. And I said, yes, absolutely.
Don't push that putt on the last round there. Yeah.
Look at that. He's got a bag and everything, though. Look at this. He's got the golf bag.
Yeah,
with
Oh,
him.
that is nice.
Is that bag full of Saudi money? Is he going to join the Saudi tour? That's a
boy.
big thing right now. Like
Who
Saudi.
joined?
The
Who's
Saudi.
joining?
Well, DeChambeau is considering it.
Really?
Yeah, the Saudis are offering blood money to PGA.
The Saudis
like,
got the money,
ridiculous
man.
money.
That's going to be a threat.
Tickets to the Choice Bank Minnesota Golf Show are on
Serious?
sale for just $12. MinnesotaGolfShow.com. Presented by Choice Bank. Your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers, Nelson Marine Second Swing, and of course us, Score North. We help present this event. So, all right, boys.
We'll be there.
It's a Reckless Speculation Thursday. Good times.
Reckless speculation.
MVP Kirk Cousins wasn't. What? Who was that?
You
guy?
earn your cap hit.
Someday.
You
That guy
earn your
was-
cap hit.
Who was that guy?
Not his fault. Not
I'm
his
glad
fault.
he's gone now, replaced by a skinnier, handsomer guy, the new Judd.
Never his fault. All right, see you guys.